Okay, well, I have sanded this last layer, the most recent layer, sanded it back a little bit just to knock down the really sharp edges and the little blobs and bits that probably would have come off when I was applying paint over the top of this. I did this last night and let it dry overnight, and it is very inexpensive modeling paste. This is Artist Loft that I got at Michael's, and you can usually get coupons at Michael's for 50% off or buy one get one free Artist Loft products. So Michael's is a fun spot to get inexpensive paints, and that really helps me actually. These types, they're the academic level. I can use a lot of paint when I'm just playing and experimenting, when I'm not worried about that they're so expensive that that's one of the things that gets in our way as artists, is using our supplies. If they're really expensive, we don't use them liberally and we try to save them, and therefore we don't feel free to just really go for it and quote unquote waste paint. But with these, I never feel like it's wasting paint because I'm learning every time I experiment and enjoying the process, learning what techniques I like, what tools I like to use, what colors feel good. And it's just really freeing and wipes away the stress. It gives me a renewed energy just to be able to be playful like this. So this is a just piece of particle board that was left over from some construction. So I had put a couple coats on it earlier and a little bit of texture, and it's been sitting around for a few months. So I decided just to bring it back alive, and I felt like it needed more texture. The nice thing about working with wood is it's solid. You can layer a lot of texture on here and it doesn't crack. It's a stable surface to sand back, to scrape, to really just do whatever you want to do with it. So obviously this texture has to dry, typically for 24 hours, just to make sure it doesn't reactivate when you put a lot of new paint on it. But it's all acrylic base. All of these are just simple acrylic paints that I'm going to use. And I have no particular plan. So I was just going to experiment with a few tools. I actually have a little bit of white paint left over on this brush from something I was doing earlier. This brush is solid and hard. So even though it looks like a brush, I'm using it more as like a spatula, and I used this in my earlier playing with paint today. So what I'm gonna do is just start putting on a few layers, and let's see, I'm loving the blues and the greens. However, if I use some warm tones or some contrasting color and allow some of that blue and green to show through, that creates an interesting texture. So I think using what I'm just drawn to today. So I have a purple here that I grabbed, and I really just need to grab I don't love yellow, but for some reason that yellow is calling to me. And I'm gonna try to do some warm colors. And this again is just going to be a background layer. So it's just gonna be fun to put some color down. I have a fluorescent neon red, actually is what it's called. I'm gonna put a little bit here because I sometimes like mixing the neon red and a yellow As you can see, I have an old plastic plate as my palette, and I let it just get super messy, and I just reuse it over and over and over. And again, I'm using inexpensive paints. You can get these at Walmart or any store like that. This has some white. I'm going to use a few different brushes. I have cottage cheese containers with water in them and yogurt containers. This is a big jug of apple barrel white, just craft paint. I feel for me to get my inspiration going, I just want to have some great color to play with and feel free to use as much as I want. So that fluorescent yellow makes a great orange, and then when you introduce white into it, you get some lovely peach colors. So I'm just kind of seeing what feels great right now. I'm gonna put some more white. Not always the case, but painting and mixing warm colors together can create some really lovely things, and then doing cool colors with different brushes. Granted, you can mix everything together depending on what you want to experiment with, but I'm just going to go for it. And what I feel like doing is picking up some of those textures. And I already feel like I need a bigger brush. I'm trying to decide if I haven't used a toothbrush in a while. And something about using different types of tools brings out the playfulness. This actually feels way more gratifying than using the regular paintbrush. It's rougher. And I have no rhyme or reason at this point. I do not know what this is going to become. And there the sunshine is coming into the top part of my video here. I wanted that sun coming in because it gives a shadow, a relief, where I think you can probably see the texture a little bit better with that directional light coming in. Right now in my head, there's something saying that, oh, this is looking terrible. You know, what is this going to be? What is going to happen? What's my plan? I mean, I think that's just a default. Even though this is my favorite way of painting, my brain just automatically wants to have a plan. It wants to know where this is going. What is happening here and where is this all going? Like, what's the point, you know? That's an interesting thing to be able to like coexist with, as well as the voice that also says, it's okay, it's just paint. This is just experimentation. You can't get it wrong here. And you don't have to have a plan. There's no rules. If it just feels good to make this motion with a particular tool and smear paint around and see how the colors blend and how the contrast happens. It may get all covered up later. Little pieces of it may show through, and that's okay. It's not a waste. It's kind of like just a gratifying sense of giving yourself some time and space just to create, just to find out what happens. And then as you go along, you'll start to see what you love. You'll love making certain marks. You'll fall in love with certain tools that you'd like to return to. But how can you know if you just like keep doing the same thing over and over all the time? Like I have used a toothbrush once in the past, but not for long. And I threw a few in my bag that were used up, and we certainly use them in the house for, you know, scrubbing things and cleaning now and then. So I threw some in for painting. And I don't even want to switch at the moment, but I think I'm going to, just for the sake of trying something a little bit different. But I'm really loving how this feels and how it just moves paint around in a way that is unexpected. So you can't really plan what it's going to do too much. And I'm just trying to catch some of those like high points in the texture. Add some layers there without, some of the colors are mixing, but acrylic paint of course dries really quickly, so you can go back over it pretty quickly. I tend to make a lot of sweeping marks. It seems to be what feels really good for the movement that I'm wanting to do. My dad's gonna start mowing the lawn out there pretty soon, so I didn't figure I'd make this video very long. Just more wanted to show what it's like to use an unexpected tool. And I like some of that blue showing through. And I like some of these different shapes in here. I have no idea what this thing is going to end up being. No idea. So let me see, I might use something different down here. It's like I've got two moons going on or something here. These vertical marks, or I mean horizontal marks, are from a fork that I drug through the texture before it dried. Just a regular dinner fork. Doop, 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 doop. Just drug it through. So now the lawnmower's on. I don't want you guys to have to listen to that. So I'll turn this off for now, and then I'll do a part 2 when I let this dry and do some more layers.